They were gardeners once, cleaning the world, feeding the soil, recycling death into life. Now they feed on something new. They feed on us. It all began near the equator, where relentless heat pushed colonies past their limits. Droughts, pesticides, famine. For the ants, evolution had one choice left: adapt or die. And they adapted. The first sign wasn't violence. It was silence. Forests fell quiet, devoid of birdsong. Burrows that should have been sealed at night stayed open, breathing heat like lungs. And beneath the fallen leaves, something new appeared. Tracks carved into the soil. Perfect, deliberate spirals. Ants don't draw patterns unless they're planning something. Scientists soon found the source, a mutation inside Solenopsis ignita, a relative of the common fire ant. Its gut microbes had evolved a terrifying new enzyme, one that could dissolve keratin and collagen. It could dissolve flesh. The ants no longer needed sugar or seeds. They could digest life itself. At first, their targets were small: worms, lizards, any stray mammal that couldn't get away. But then they organized. Every colony learned to hunt in coordinated pulses, waves of millions moving like liquid heat, swarming their prey until the oxygen simply vanished. Predators tried to run. Nothing ran far enough. By the time humanity took notice, a horrifying reality had set in. 70% of all tropical carrion was gone within minutes of death. Entire ecosystems were being emptied faster than they could decay. But the ants weren't just cleaning up. They were clearing the board, making space for something much, much larger. When researchers tried to contain them, the colonies revealed another frightening trait. They behaved like a single, massive brain. Each mound began producing distinct frequencies, vibrations identical to the heartbeats of mammals. They were luring their prey by imitation. One scientist called it acoustic camouflage. Another, shaking in his lab, simply called it intelligence. And then they crossed the line. Literally. Across the Darien Gap, swarms appeared on infrared scans like rivers of fire, a living migration flowing north. When authorities deployed pesticide barriers, the ants simply tunneled under them, 3 meters deep, into sealed caverns they had filled with carbon dioxide from their own bodies. They had learned to breathe poison. Within months, the colonies reached the cities. Bogota was the first to fall. The electrical grid failed as cables were stripped bare, the copper dragged underground to line their nests. They weren't just hunting anymore. They were harvesting. Fire, humanity's oldest tool, was useless. They used it against us. By coating their exoskeletons with soot and resin, they became heat-resistant, able to pass through walls of flame like shadows that burned backward. The world watched in horror as thermal cameras showed black rivers crossing fire breaks without pause. Governments launched fleets of containment drones. But every strike just revealed another chilling truth. The ants were learning faster than our machines could adapt. Destroy one mound, and within a day, nearby colonies would rebuild it using crushed concrete and glass from our own fallen structures. Our cities were turning into their hives. Sidewalks became hollow shells, skyscraper foundations vibrating with an unseen, unceasing movement. When the United Nations declared a global quarantine, it was already too late. Communication collapsed. Fiber optic cables were eaten. Radio waves were drowned out by interference from tunnels resonating at 40 hertz, the exact frequency of human anxiety. Billions of people lived with a constant low hum beneath their floors, never knowing if it was just the plumbing or something breathing. Then the hives changed strategy. They stopped attacking. They vanished. For 3 silent weeks, nothing moved. The sensors went dark, and for a brief, foolish moment, humanity exhaled. That's when the ground began to swell. Across 5 continents, the soil buckled like surfacing whales. The ants had fused their colonies underground, creating a single entity kilometers wide, linked by pressure-tuned chambers that stored methane and oxygen in perfect explosive ratios. When they ignited it, they didn't just explode. They expanded. New tunnels vented superheated gas upwards, creating heat pockets that baked the soil sterile. Every seed, every root, every microbe was incinerated. Global photosynthesis paused. The surface now belonged to the predators. They hadn't just climbed the food chain. They had inverted it. Life now rose from below. Within a decade, only the polar regions remained habitable for humans. Ants couldn't survive the freezing temperatures, yet. But even then, satellite imagery showed them adapting again, clustering around geothermal vents, wrapping their bodies around heat sources like living insulation. Evolution no longer needed centuries. It was happening in months. And then came the sound. A low, planet-wide pulse recorded by deep Earth sensors identical on every continent. The frequency was 7 Hz, the resonance of a human heartbeat at rest. The planet itself was vibrating to the rhythm of its new masters. When the few remaining survivors finally dared to descend into the abandoned hives, they found something unimaginable. Vast chambers lined with bone, arranged in perfect hexagonal lattices. This wasn't random. It was acoustic architecture. Every bone had been hollowed to a specific pitch. Each chamber was tuned like a musical instrument. The ants were composing. They hadn't wiped us out because they hated us. They needed us. For their architecture, for their art, for their function. Every echo in their tunnels was the memory of our existence, played endlessly through chambers of flesh and stone, a civilization built from the bodies of its predecessors. Centuries later, explorers from the last human enclaves tell stories of the humming ground, of red dust that glows faintly at night, and of deep tunnels that seem to whisper our names. The world isn't dead. It's transformed. It's now a single organism spanning continents, calm, methodical, and complete. We called them pests. They called us dinner. Now, beneath the soil, an intelligence moves without eyes, without mercy, without pause. And if you press your ear to the earth on a warm, quiet night, you can still hear it. A faint scratching, somewhere deep, deep below. As if the planet itself were dreaming of hunger. Thank you so much for joining me on this chilling journey. If you enjoy thought-provoking stories like this, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. I'll see you in the next one.